But Ricky Flex, do you want to get the black bag now and talk about Fast Train, your boy?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a big cast as well for this movie.
Surprisingly big. I know we had Roger Jean Page as supporting cast here, but Tom Burke, I did not know was going to be in this movie. Naomi Harris also in this movie. It's really weird how those names just kind of slip by us. And I think before we get into the Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, and synopsis, I also want to talk about the marketing for this movie. I thought it was unbelievable when it, in terms of like the trailer, and then you watch the movie and you see the misdirection the trailer had, the lines that are said, but you don't know who they're directed towards. They have some actions that are done by the characters, but they're cutting out who is, poisoning a glass, all right, or who is, like I said before, being told to do something, who is giving the instruction. I think this whole movie became more of a whodunit than I was expecting, and I thought the trailer was actually amazing in terms of not giving away anything and still garnering intrigue. Special.
This movie, from the actual substance to the marketing, was old school Hollywood. It
Mm.
honestly was. It was your mid-budget, 30 to 40 million, movie stars, easy to make, but also you're still like on-site locations with a great director, good writer, David Kep, and the marketing actually was marketing. It wasn't like, oh, like I'm going to give you the whole movie in 60 seconds. This was like clever. And like you said, it was more of a whodunit than you thought. And I guess we probably should have picked up on that more by the trailer and the misdirection that we clearly saw. I would say the only thing that maybe is the new school Hollywood is that this did rely on IP. And here's how. You were expecting a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type of storyline here.
Hmm.
This movie's not that.
No, that's the misdirection. And they leaned on Mr. and Mrs. Smith as like, this is more prestige, slicker, cooler. I almost described this movie as a less commercial, but more, like I said, prestige. And it's like Steven Soderbergh doing it, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, you substitute with like Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender. You just naturally take the movie more seriously. But once again, marketing, very smart here. Let's hit Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb synopsis, and then we'll go into our initial reactions. But Rotten Tomatoes has Black Bag at a 97% critic score and a 71% audience score. IMDb clocking in at 7.4 out of 10. Synopsis reads Black Bag is a gripping spy drama about legendary intelligence agents George Woodhouse and his beloved wife, Catherine. When she is suspected of betraying the nation, George faces the ultimate test: loyalty to his marriage or his country. Okay, Ricky Flex, let's go initial reactions. What do you think of Black Bag?
I think it was what you just said. It was prestige, but it still also was tight. It was quick 90 minutes, like you mentioned too. It was sleek. It was concise. It was clever, witty, a little bit sexy. It was sexy, not just the people on screen, but a couple things in the story. And overall, it was incredibly enjoyable, glorified whodunit a little bit. And it wasn't like a whodunit like Knives Out or whatever, but it had those elements that was like, okay, this movie might have been even more entertaining and funny than I thought going into it. So overall, like this movie rocks. It
Mm-hmm.
rocks. It's not like the ceiling is lower, but it was very, very, very effective.
I don't know if I use rocks for special movies. I would say this one very, very good, because I do have some quibbles with the movie, but I think this movie took a lot of pride in how short it was and how brief it was and how to the point it was. It was an hour and 33 minutes. Steven Soderbergh has been bragging almost when he's been promoting this movie of how short his movies are in terms of compared to other blockbusters that come out, and it feels like you need to spend at least 2 hours at the movies. It's prestige movies, Oscar movies, you got to spend 3 hours at the theaters. You're sitting through run times and intermissions, right? Looking at you, Brady Corbett. But this one's like, no. Like I feel like this movie was leaning so hard into it. Like, yes, we can give backstory on our two leads. We can have an exploration of all these different characters in an hour and 33 minutes. We can have kind of a complicated plot that is wrapped up in an hour and 33 minutes, right? It felt like you could have fully fleshed out characters in that amount of time. This one felt like it gave you everything that you needed in the allotted time, but most other directors would need 2 hours to do it at minimum. It felt like Soderbergh was saying like, we don't have to make movies that come out in theaters from major studios and like our focus features movies that are needed for 2 hours. I can do this. It is possible. Like it seems like he's just trying to go against the grain, which is like what Soderbergh does.
When you see a movie that's 90 minutes nowadays, you're like, oof, that's probably not a good sign. Unless it's Steven Soderbergh,
Yeah.
because he's so efficient. And you can see a lot of the like, also David Kep, the writer here, the dialogue was also efficient and clever, like I talked about earlier. And this didn't like add extra fluff, you know, add a couple of things just to maybe do like a product placement or maybe just to maybe have a future storyline spin-off or anything. This was like, nope, we're gonna keep this 90 minutes because that's all this story needed. This is all this movie needed. And you felt that. And honestly, I appreciated that.
hmm And Soderbergh, his last movie, he's had two movies in the last 3 months. At this rate, he's gonna come out with 8 movies this year. It's insane. Like
He
his
loves to work.
his efficiency when it comes to making movies. I saw Presence. Presence was solid. I think that's a very polarizing movie. It worked for the most part for me just because I love what they did with the camera work. It was less horror than I think everyone was anticipating with a story about a ghost and like the perspective of the apparition, with the camera view. Just like this movie was, I think people thought was going to be a lot more violent, and it ended up being more witty and more of a whodunit, like we've talked about. But yeah, 1 hour and 25 minutes for Presence, hour 33 here. I will say, in the hour 33, at times this movie felt longer than an hour and 33 minutes. It doesn't feel as tight as it actually scientifically, mathematically is, because I think there are a bunch of twists that happen. Sometimes you understand what's happening. Sometimes it's hard for the audience to actually make out what is happening, what a character actually did to be traitorous to the Black Bag agency that Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender's characters work for. I feel like it is a little talky, and I think they could have used actually a little more violence, and I think that makes the movie feel like it's 2 hours when really it's only 93 minutes.
Yeah, the talking room to room scenes is all this movie is for the most part.
Yeah,
That's why it feels longer than maybe a 90-minute action movie,
yeah.
right? Because that you could feel that pace just brisk by because you have so many set pieces, set pieces. Here, you don't have any of those. You have one, maybe two if you can count two, but really just one. And to be honest, I didn't think that was a very good. That wasn't like top 10 scenes of the movie. So I think maybe it could have used some of that. But then again, then your budget starts to pile up. And then this movie wouldn't be able to have been made.
So, do you already know the budget for this, or do you want to guess what the budget was for this
I
movie?
assumed it was between 30 and 40 million.
So, $50 million.
Wow.
I would assume a lot of that goes to this cast because this cast is pretty stacked.
Right.
Cate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender, uh, Roger Jean Page. I don't think comes cheap after Bridgerton. I think we should go there next because I thought Michael Fassbender was unbelievable in this movie. I like he. This was a perfect character for him. Like when you think of this trilogy that he's been on, where it's the killer, then it's the agency, and then Black Bag. It seems like he is so good at being the perfect posture, calculated, but also the guy who can look like if you really piss him off, he can kick your ass or he can do some really evil things to you. But also, he's a guy who is just like, I don't like liars. I don't like people that cross me. And if you do, I'll make you pay. I think he is absolutely on fire with these type of roles. It's glad that we have him back. Is he falling too in love with these type of roles? Probably, but he's freaking good at playing these guys.
Yeah. And also these like emotionless people, right? Like this person, literally no emotions
Yeah.
whatsoever at any time. But you're still locked in on this guy and you're rooting for this guy. Like
hmm
Fassbender has that way to just compel you no matter what type of role is, whether it's shame or hunger and roles that are literally deep in emotion or this where literally there's none. There's some pull he has. And that's just like good movie stars, good actors. They just pull you in and you root for them.
That's where he also, I think, along with the performance, you get like a very like with the writing of the movie, talk about giving backstory, like him just being so good at his job and hating liars so much, he like basically turns his dad in. And he does it at the age of 37. So it tells like kind of like he's willing to cross whoever to get the truth, right? And make sure that we take down liars. And he's even willing to cross his dad, right? The one person that he may not be willing to cross, and at least he's saying that he is his wife with Cate Blanchett, you know? So it's like that's kind of the crux of the movie, their relationship. So not only are you looking at Fassbender and like his code that he lives by, but also you have the looser code of a Cate Blanchett. And they seem to balance one another very well in this movie. They got excellent chemistry. I thought she was really good here. She's a lot more emotional and she's a lot more, I guess, visibly angry, or even she's called hostile. You know, here as opposed to Fassbender, who's the calm, cool, calculated type of character. Only time he gets emotional is if like his wife is at risk. So I thought they were amazing together. Cate Blanchett gets her one like basically one-on-one scenes. She gets to do her thing. I think the one that sticks out for me is when she's at the therapist's office. I think she really shows out. It just this was a movie felt like you were kind of like going back and forth with two like 21st century legends, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think Kate Blanchett, like this was another classic one for her too. If you think about it, I know she's played so many different types of characters because she also loves to work, similar to Steven Soderbergh, and she doesn't take days off like maybe Michael Fassbender does for a race car, or trying to be a race car driver. But point or Formula One, whatever. But point is, is so good at playing like higher class, smart individuals. She's incredibly good at it. And I know that's not all she plays. I think she's one of the goats, if not the goat. But I just think that this particular role, similar to Fassbender here, she's also playing a character she's very comfortable playing in. Like
Yeah.
this was very easy for her, like it was probably for Fassbender to just slide in here and do this movie. Like if you had to say, I know it's hard to get all these stars in the same room at the same time, but they probably just like did this in a week or two. Like this must have been really easy besides like getting them all together and going on location.
Yeah, and like they can roll out of bed and get into these characters. You
Right.
know, when it goes even down to the posture, like in going to the characters that they play, they're usually like, I'm smarter than you, I'm better than you, and I know it. That's like the vibe that they give off. You know, that's and like, can you imagine Michael Fassbender or Cate Blanchett ever playing a dumb person in a movie?
I'm trying to think if there's been a movie where they've done that.
No shot. Where they've been a dumb person, like Fast Train, you'd have to think really hard and have to be early in his career. Because let's if you just run through his characters, if you go to like even David and you go through the Alien franchise, like that guy, that's the dumbest he's gonna get just because he's not socially, prompted. As opposed, that's the dumbest he gets. And Kate Blanchett, I don't know what her character in Borderlands was, but I assume that movie was dumb. So she was probably the smartest character in that dumb movie. I have a hard time imagining them playing anybody that is slow or dim.
Yeah, I just went through all Fassbender's filmography. Didn't see anything. I'm going through Blanchett's now. God, by the way, over 100, or this was like her 99th appearance in a movie or a show. And she's going to be in 100 later this year with Adam Driver in that father, mother, sister, brother movie that's highly anticipated. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, they only play smart people.
And they had to be super smart here because they're based just this is like a cousin of the CIA, the agency that they're working for, Black Bag. So they're trying to uh, outduel the agency itself pretty much, at least some people inside the agency. So you're dealing with smart people. You got to show that you are smarter and above the rest of them. And yeah, I think that was just perfect casting.
I think so, just to kind of harp on something that you just mentioned there. So I thought this was like MI6, MI5, whatever,
Uh-huh.
and just like a function of it is black bag, where like there's a black bag mission, and that's why like Kate Blanchett in this movie when she went on a mission and and Michael Fassbender asked her about it, she was like black bag, as in like we can't talk about it.
Oh, I thought it was the agency is Black Bag.
See, it goes back to your point where like maybe you said this off camera, where off mic, where there was some confusion a little bit, just off of like kind of like explaining like the background a
Yeah.
little bit. And this is one of those because I have a different interpretation of it than you do right here. And it's the name of the movie.
Yeah, maybe I have to do a little Wikipedia search on this. This movie,
Okay.
I thought like the conversations were, sometimes going very fast, using a lot of language that seems like it was coded to like what the agency was trying to do. It seemed like high level, and it's not something that should be understood immediately by audiences. But I thought when it came down to it, you get what's going on. That's honestly what I was thinking. And this movie also, they got right to the point. This went to the hour and 33 runtime. They did not sugarcoat anything. They're like, okay, you have Fassbender meeting up with this character named Meacham. Meacham gives him a list of 5 people, and then he says, okay, like Severus is this program, right? It's this device, right? This is something that someone that it's something regarding this. It's like eventually you find out it's something to do with destabilizing Russia, right? Something to do with nuclear power and things of that nature. And then like having a bomb like be deactivated. This. Russia ends a war. That's what you got to know. Severus, right? Someone sent it to Russia or plans on sending it to Russia. It's one of these 5 people. And then boom, first lead candidate is your wife. That's all you got to know. I liked how it was just to the point. And then there's a lot of hullabaloo that happens. It's a lot of conversations, meeting in rooms. It's a great dinner party scenes, a couple great dinner party scenes. And then you have a bunch of things happen. And at the end, there's that guy was responsible. That's
Right.
just like
But
that's kind of the point. It was just
that's
like,
why it's
we
so
get it.
important to have these stars that could hold the screen in a movie like this. Because like you said, it's really quick. You might not understand everything going on, some of the jargon and whatnot, procedures, but in these rooms, you have good actors, or at least people that can lock in on screen. You know, like we know Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett are two of the best, right? But Tom Burke, I loved
Great.
him in this.
He
I
was so
loved him
good.
in this. He should do more of these roles rather than Furiosa, where he kind of could show some of that charisma. I would love to see more in this stuff. Like I liked him as Orson Welles in Mank, but like that was very small, and he's been in a couple other things I like him in. But
Only
this is my
God
favorite Tom Burke
forgives.
stuff, huh?
Fucked up. Only God forgives. The most fucked up Tom Burke role. For those who know, they know.
But I do like him in this. I think he should do more of this stuff. Keep getting his name out there, just and then maybe eventually become a leading man somewhere. But like I think just good acting mixed with stars to hold the screen in these small rooms, which again, this movie's 90 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours at some points. But I still had a good time the entire time, even though it felt a little longer than its runtime.
Yeah. There was I thought there might have been an underuse of Pierce Brosnan in this movie. And they kind of was only in there because it's a British agency, or in the back of your mind, this guy played James Bond. He has basically less than 20 lines in the movie, I want to say, and he's just kind of explaining what's happening. He is a what's it called? He's exposition for the most part. And then he has a couple one-on-ones with Cate Blanchett, but honestly didn't bring much to it. Tom Burke was the standout in the supporting area. Like he was freaking bringing it. He was the funniest character. He has the British wit to him. That's the thing too. Sometimes you combine the complicated language of the agency and you combine the accents. I'm like, okay, I'm out. like I'm just gonna wait for the next scene to catch up.
Yeah, he was definitely the standout supporting role. But I got to shout out Marissa Abella, just industry.
Dude, I knew just by looking at her, I'm like, this is an industry head. This is an industry kid right here. I,
Yeah,
I, I didn't love her, to be honest. She
but
she was too sassy, too sarcastic. She is, I don't know. I just didn't believe she was that smart, and she was able to like try and pull something on Fassbender when she was doing that polygraph test. I don't believe she's actually that smart.
this is gonna sound bad, but I totally agree. And it's because in industry, she's like this rich kid who only gets the job because her dad basically gets her the job. And also like everyone like she's good looking and whatnot. And she's not the smartest person in industry.
Hmm.
Here it's like she's supposed to be like kind of a whiz kid here. Freaking can beat polygraphs, can code with the best of them. She's on the ones and twos on the laptop, doing this AI lip sync or lip sync, lip reading type of technology. Like I was like, you are not this smart. And
It's like the other characters can't beat the polygraph test, but she can.
right.
Like that to me, it's crazy.
So and they tried to hint at that in the beginning, but I didn't buy it. I think that was the problem with the movie. I also thought Pierce Brosnan was not good. If
Yeah.
we're being honest, I think Marissa Abella was good, but just like the character didn't fit her. I thought Pierce Brosnan was not that good, and there's a reason why he had less than 20 lines.
Pierce Brosnan felt like he was in a spy. agency movie that cost $100 million to make, that makes about $20 million and has a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like everybody else is like kind of bringing it to this movie, and especially the two leads. Tom Burke's bringing it, but it felt like Pierce Brosnan kind of brought the movie down, where it's like you're making this more of a blockbuster movie than like a prestige movie to me.
Yeah, like you can't do Ray Fiennes in there because he literally was that guy in James Bond not too long ago, but he would have been a great guy for this.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, like this isn't his bag. Like he's not gonna be like, it's like we said, this is like a less commercial, more serious, more mature Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Pierce Brosnan would be in that in between like that Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie and this movie. He's like in that middle of the road type of like performance here.
Yeah, but again, I understand the meta casting there. I understand it. I didn't hate him. I'm just saying he clearly was a step below, like you're saying, to everyone else.
In terms of like the dinner scene, I think that was an unbelievable scene. That's one of my favorite scenes of the year so far. And the I loved it too because you're getting at this is happening so early in the movie, and you just found out one of these five people is like a traitor to their country and is potentially going to be responsible for killing thousands of people. So, and then you're watching Fassbender after he has that conversation one on one with Cate Blanchett, saying like, "Are we gonna do the polygraph? No, we're gonna invite him all over for dinner, and you're gonna watch him go to work. You're gonna watch him analyze, and you're gonna see how a game he implements." Right, is going to bring out different sides of people. It's going to help him determine who is a traitor. I think that was such a smart thing to do. It added a whole nother element. So you're getting to know these characters and giving them backstory, but you're also like, who is the one and what is Fassbender thinking? And you're watching his reactions, right, to these characters, and you find out about their relationships, their infidelities, right, the affairs that are going on. You see the violence. You have the knife going through the Tom Burke's hand, which I thought was just a chef's. That was a cherry on top of the scene. I thought it was absolutely one of the best scenes of the year so far. It's not saying much because it hasn't been that great of a year of movies, but that's definitely up with the top of best scenes.
For March 16th, it's a strong start. For March
Yes.
16th, it's a strong start. And they had that 1 to 2 scenes before to kinda say, "Hey, this is a relationship with his wife, and hey, here's the story, here's the plot." They had those 2
Yeah.
scenes, and it's like, "Alright, let's get into this." And then this scene was 10 minutes in, and it was the longest scene in the movie, and it was well worth it. It was worth it. And obviously, at a dinner party, in a normal dinner party, this would never happen. But they did a good job saying, like, we are all liars. We are in a weird situation. We only can date ourselves. Like, this is normal. And I think the movie did a good job setting the barometer there with this dinner scene. Then by the end of the scene, you have an hour left in the movie. You know each of your characters. You know where they work. You know how it's going to be. And you know, like, there's basically no holds bar with these people.
And David Kep was on the script here, guy who wrote Jurassic Park and a bunch of other blockbuster movies. But I thought it was just once again the hour 30 runtime. They are finding different ways to tell the audience about these people, right? Their tendencies, and to watch the main character do what he does best. Like that was such a smart thing to do. That's one of the just like we said, they're flexing the runtime and what they're able to get out of the backstory and give you the info on these characters. Other thoughts or flaws before strengths or flaws before we wrap up, give scores.
I really thought it was good. Like, rocks is probably not the right word I meant to say. Just more like I like these type of movies. You know, I
Hmm.
just like I have an admiration for them. Just stars on the screen with an interesting concept, with marketing that isn't like giving away too much. And yes, was this more of a whodunit than I thought for sure. But by the end of it, when it literally had the whodunit climactic scene, I was buying it. I was buying it. So I really like this movie. I wish there was more of them, but and like I know Fassbender was talking about the other day how like the reason he did this movie was not because of Steven Soderbergh, but it was because of the premise and the behind the scenes of this movie saying, yeah, like mid-budget movies don't get made anymore. I wanted to star in one. And the opportunity came, and that's why I did this movie. I was like, I love this guy.
This is the mid budget flex. That's what this movie is, right? I don't know. Is this movie gonna make back its budget?
This is the only movie I didn't see box office numbers for. Let me check.
Interesting.
That came out this weekend, to clarify.
It seems like that this has really good word of mouth though. It seems like people like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, although a 71% audience score. And I think after you give me the budget, I kind of want to talk about that. Do you find anything?
Ooh, I don't think it's good. I'm clicking on a link.
Damn. If we were able to make back its budget and it only cost $50 million to make, would have been a great sign. And Soderbergh.
It's single digits. So yeah, it's gonna need an international release to help it.
Yeah, this is also contributing to the death of the movie star and death of the mid-budget movie. That's not great. But
Yes. Before Sunday, 7 million.
71% critic score as opposed to 97% audience score. I'm not shocked by that at all because this seems like a very smart version like of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And if people can get lost in the dialogue, they can get that misdirection where they think they're getting more of a spy, violent type of movie, sexy thriller. They are getting a sexy movie, but they're not getting a violent one, you know? And the dialogue might bog them down a little bit. I can't say I'm shocked by the 71% audience score for us dumb audiences. You know what I mean?
Like you said, there's no action. It's all room to room, conversation to conversation type of movie.
I think with that being said, let's get to scores. What do you give Black Bag?
84.
84. I'm going 75. That does it for our review of Black Bag.